The first period bell had just rung when Mr. Davison, our homeroom teacher, walked in looking like he'd swallowed a wasp. He was holding a detention slip. The entire class went dead silent. Everyone was trying to guess who was in for it, but I was the only one who heard the screaming inside Mr. Davison's head. Which one of you little monsters sacrificed the dean's toupee to the unnameable one last night? Before I could even process that, Sarah, the quiet girl in front of me, who usually wouldn't even step on an ant, turned around and gave me a sickeningly sweet smile. Her thoughts, however, hit me like a thunderclap. Crap, I think this guy saw me summoning the dark entity last night. Should I turn him into my next mannequin? Right after that, Kevin, the team captain and all-around golden boy who sat behind me, had his own quiet little thought. Sarah is playing a dangerous game. Sacrificing a toupee is one thing, but trying to steal my prime material? Looks like I'll have to feed her to my shadows tonight. I looked around the room at all the good students with their heads buried in their textbooks, and a cold sweat instantly soaked the back of my shirt. This so-called honors class was just a collection of monsters wearing human skin, and I was the only thing on the menu. Chloe, the most popular girl in school, walked up to my desk in front of everyone and shyly handed me a pink envelope. The catcalls and whistles nearly blew the roof off, but the system notification buzzing in my ear was way louder. BZZ, system error, accessing Chloe's deep consciousness. Chloe's thoughts came through, cold as ice. This idiot has a pure soul, a perfect vessel to consecrate the union with my spectral husband, dead for 100 years. Tonight, he joins me in the phantom embrace. I was about to say no when Kyle, the rich kid from the back of the class, suddenly stood up, snatched the letter, and tore it to shreds. He looked furious, like a jealous boyfriend, but his thoughts told a different story. You crazy bitch, Chloe. This guy has legacy blood. He's the primary ingredient I've reserved for my elixir of life. Anyone who tries to take him from me will pay. Even our math teacher, a kind-looking man on the dais, pushed up his glasses, his mind doing its own dark calculations. Why fight? Let them wear each other out. I'll just devour them both, along with a boy, and complete my final demonic form. I stared at the battlefield that was my classroom and silently tightened my grip on my ballpoint pen. Looks like I need to figure out how to survive this class period first. At the senior pep rally before graduation, the whole class was on their feet, passionately chanting school slogans. I was in a daze from playing video games all night when my system suddenly announced that, due to a massive energy spike, it was enabling all-channel monitoring. Ethan, the valedictorian leading the pledge on stage, pumped his fist in the air, but his thoughts were filled with desperation. Louder, chant louder. We need enough positive energy to suppress the thing under the school, or we're all going to die. I looked around in horror and saw Mike, the slacker who usually slept through everything, staring intently at the ceiling. His thoughts were unervingly calm. Ethan's an idiot. You can't suppress it. The seal broke days ago. Looks like I'll have to take the bandages off my right hand sooner than I planned. And then there was Maria, the quiet girl who was always applying for financial aid, bowing her head and crying silently. Solby. The thing underground is my grandpa's pet. It's just hungry and wants to come out for a snack. Why is everyone being so mean to it? I swallowed hard. The sun was shining brightly outside, but I felt like I was trapped in a meat locker. This wasn't a pep rally. It was the prelude to a feeding frenzy. The moment the new transfer student, Lily, walked through the door, every guy in the class was captivated. She looked innocent and harmless, and her voice was soft and sweet when she introduced herself. But I was hearing a unanimous, high-alert mental broadcast from every girl in the room. High-level succubus detected. All units, code red. Do not let her steal my life force points. It turned out every girl in my class had some kind of system and was engaged in a brutal life force war. Lily walked to the empty seat next to me, gave me a shy smile, and immediately started calculating in her head. This background character has a death countdown of only 3 days left. Perfect. I'll drain the last of his vitality to upgrade my beauty stats. Before I could flinch away, Derek, the weird loner who always sat in the back, suddenly stuck his foot out into the aisle. Lily tripped, almost falling flat on her face. Derek kept his eyes on his book, looking completely indifferent, but was cackling internally. You want to drain him? Did you ask my permission? I've been cultivating that incubator for 3 years. Only I get to kill him. I looked down at the thin black line that had appeared on the back of my hand at some point and finally understood why I was always so sick and tired. Turns out, I'm just a walking XP potion that everyone wants a sip of. 5 in biology class, we were dissecting frogs. My hand was shaking as I held the scalpel. Suddenly, my system glitched out, and the thoughts of the entire class flooded my mind like a tidal wave. Jessica, the artsy girl who was normally too squeamish to watch a chicken get plucked, was staring at her frog with a look of motherly love. There, sweetie, don't be afraid. Mommy is about to transfer your soul into this body. It may be a frog, but it's better than being obliterated completely. My hand jerked, and the scalpel clattered to the floor. Ben, the quiet guy next to me, picked it up and handed it back with a good-natured smile while thinking. That psycho Jessica is at it again with her soul transference experiments. Last time she put the class president into the body of a stray dog. It took me 2 weeks to hunt it down and silence it. My head snapped toward the class president, who was standing by the teacher's desk. Just then, he crouched down and let out 2 distinct barks. The whole class burst out laughing, thinking he was joking around. Only I knew it was a cry for help. Meanwhile, our biology teacher, guiding us through the dissection, was sneering to himself. A bunch of amateur warlocks. They can't even draw a basic containment sigil correctly. Looks like I'll have to give them a little hands-on lesson tonight. 6th to prom money went missing, and the whole class was pointing fingers. Mr. Davison made everyone empty their bags, but nothing turned up. I stood in the corner, listening to everyone's thoughts, feeling my entire worldview crumble. Leo, the class brainiac, was looking at the floor, thinking nervously. Please don't check the secret compartment. The money in there is what I got for selling half a kidney to send to my vampire online girlfriend. Vince, the resident burnout in the last row, looked bored and defiant, but his mind was racing. Yeah, I stole the money, so what? I already burned it as an offering for my dead grandma. She lost big at mahjong in the underworld and got taken hostage. And Tiffany, the rich girl who was always dressed in designer clothes, was praying frantically. Thank God they didn't find the loan statements in my purse. If anyone finds out my family went bankrupt, how am I supposed to keep up my image? Just then, Mr. Davison sighed from the front of the room, his thoughts cutting through the chaos. This class is impossible. I guess I'll have to use my command ability to make the money return on its own. I hope it doesn't scare them to death. The next second, a stack of cash materialized out of thin air on the teacher's desk, still stained with dried blood and flecks of ash. 7 at the school health screening. The nurse's hand was shaking uncontrollably as she drew blood. I was in the middle of the line when my system glitched, letting me hear her frantic, terrified thoughts. WH, what is this? What are these blood types? Green, blue, there's even black blood. Did I wander into an alien recruitment center? I peeked ahead and saw that the liquid being drawn from the arm of Jason, the school's pretty boy, was indeed a shimmering blue. He looked completely calm, but was cursing a storm in his head. Damn it, I forgot to drink my disguise potion. I hope this nurse knows when to keep her mouth shut, otherwise I'll have to wipe her memory. Emily, the nerdy girl behind me, gave me a shove. Hurry up, she urged, while her mind was panicking. Come on. My blood needs to be exposed to sunlight for 3 minutes before it turns red. Any longer and my cover is blown. When it was my turn, the nurse looked at my bright red blood and was so relieved she almost cried. Her mind screamed with joy. Finally, a normal one. Thank God. Just then, the school doctor, who had been observing from the sidelines, pushed a gurney over. His thoughts echoed with sinister intent. The only pure-blooded human in the entire school. What a rare specimen. I need to get him into isolation before those other freaks ruin him. 8. The power went out during late-night study hall, plunging the classroom into darkness, save for a few waving flashlight beams. Everyone was complaining about the school's crappy maintenance, but I was hearing a completely different reality. Ashley, the gossip queen in front of me, was screaming her head off internally. Aya, don't push me. Why are there so many extra people in the classroom all of a sudden? And hey, you in the red dress, get off my lap. I turned on my phone's flashlight and pointed it down the empty aisle. Ethan, the valedictorian next to me, pushed up his glasses, his mind coolly analyzing the situation. Based on the ectoplasmic energy readings, there are at least 50 lost souls gathered here. It seems the seal on the mass grave under the school's foundation has weakened. In a corner, Greg, the big guy who was always asleep, was now wide awake. He was munching on potato chips, thinking to himself, "Not bad. This century-old poltergeist has a nice spicy kick, kind of like flamin' hot Cheetos. A little stringy, though." He wasn't eating snacks at all. He was using the darkness as a cover to devour the unseen entities. Suddenly, an icy hand landed on my shoulder. A strange voice echoed in my mind from right behind me. "Haha, found one who can see us. Mind if I borrow your body to hide from that ghost-eating fatty over there?" 9. A new student named Dylan transferred into our class. Rumor was his family was loaded. The first thing he did was hand out the latest iPhone to everyone in the class. We all praised him for his generosity. I held the new phone in my hand as a blaring alarm went off in my head. Warning: high-risk item detected. This device has been embedded with a luck-siphoning charm. The user's fortune will be drained. I looked around and saw my classmates happily playing with their new phones, all mentally thanking this new god of wealth. Only Dylan sat in the back row, watching everyone with the look of a farmer gazing upon his pigs. Once I drain the luck from this entire class, the disaster in my family's mind will be averted. It's an honor for these peasants to sacrifice themselves for my family's prosperity. Suddenly, Marcus, the poor kid who was always getting picked on, stood up and tossed his phone into the trash can. Dylan's expression soured, but Marcus's thoughts were overflowing with an unexpected swagger, a pathetic luck-siphoning charm. "You dare use such cheap tricks in my presence. I'm a favored child of destiny. You try to drain my luck, and your entire family will explode from the overload." I watched a wisp of black smoke curl up from the trash can and silently toss my own phone in as well. This wasn't a school. It was a battleground for gods. 10. At the senior graduation dinner, everyone was drunk and emotional, crying and spilling their guts. The class president suggested a game of truth or dare. When it was my turn, I chose dare. The challenge: hug the person in the room you hate the most. Before I could even move, I was hit with a tidal wave of thoughts from every corner of the room, louder than a Black Friday sale. Olivia, the student council secretary, stared at me with a cold smile. "Go on, hug me. The second you touch me, my curse will activate, and you'll never find a girlfriend for the rest of your life." My best friend, Jake, who I'd been through thick and thin with, was thinking, "Don't hug me, don't hug me." I just slipped a truth serum into his drink to find out where his family's heirloom is hidden. If it kicks in now, I'm busted. Even the girl who'd had a crush on me all year was avoiding my gaze, her mind in a total panic. "Stay away. I'm actually a guy who went undercover to infiltrate this school. If he hugs me and feels my Adam's apple, I'm dead." I stood frozen in place, looking at all these fake, smiling faces, and suddenly felt like my entire 3 years of friendship with these people was a giant joke. Finally, I walked over to the corner where the cleaning lady, who everyone always ignored, was quietly working. Her thoughts were the purest of them all. What a handsome young man. He'd make a fine husband for my daughter, the zombie queen. 11. The dinner wrapped up, and we all stood outside the restaurant saying our tearful goodbyes. It was a touching scene, if you could ignore the cacophony of treacherous thoughts in my head. Ethan, the class president, clapped me on the shoulder, his eyes red. "Dude, we gotta stay in touch. Never forget your friends when you make it big." His thoughts, however, were less sentimental. "This kid's dragon's blood will be at its purest tonight at midnight. I have to trick him into coming to my altar. Even a minute late, and the quality will degrade." Chloe, the prom queen, dabbed at her eyes with a tissue and pressed a small charm into my hand. "I got this for you from a temple. Keep it with you always. It'll keep you safe. The tracking charm is set. The second he's alone, I'll send the Phantom sedan to pick him up for the wedding. We are consummating this union tonight, and no one is stopping me." I forced a smile, shoved the charm in my pocket, and mentally mapped out the nearest sewer grates. "Take care, everyone," I yelled, then turned and bolted like a bat out of hell. I heard laughter behind me, but I knew it wasn't friendly. It was the sound of hunters toying with their prey. I vanished into the night, but I didn't head home. The only reason I'd survived the last 3 years was by playing the fool and listening to this damn mind-reading curse of mine. The school was protected by a ward, a newbie-friendly zone, if you will. They all coveted me, but they were bound by the school rules or some higher cosmic contract. and couldn't make a direct move. But now we had graduated. The grace period was over. Tonight was their festival. I ducked into a dark alley, gasping for breath. The system notification screamed again, this time with a nasty static buzz. Warning. Warning. Citywide paranormal levels are spiking. Multiple hostile entities detected and converging on your position. Host is advised to commit suicide immediately to avoid inhuman torment. Shut up, I hissed. This useless system was only good for one thing, announcing my impending doom. Suddenly, the sharp click-clack of high heels echoed from the mouth of the alley. Click, clack, click, clack. The rhythm was steady, each sound landing like a hammer on my heart. I held my breath, pressing myself flat against the brick wall. A woman in a red dress walked past, her silhouette elegant and deadly. It was the transfer student, Lily. She stopped at the alley's entrance, pretending to check her makeup in a small, compact mirror. Her thoughts slipped through the brick. Strange, I could have sworn I smelled that background character's aura around here. Did another dog get to him first? No, I need the last bit of his vitality to complete my beauty upgrade. I must drain him tonight. She smiled at her reflection, a smile that stretched grotesquely from ear to ear under the dim streetlight. Well, if I can't find a main course, I might as well have an appetizer. Just then, a drunk stumbled past the alley. Lily glided toward him, her voice like honey. Sir, I'm lost. Could you help me get home? The drunk was about to leer his approval when Lily's thoughts came again. His soul is a bit tainted. The taste will be off. Oh well, beggars can't be choosers. While she was busy feeding, I slipped out the other end of the alley. This city had gone completely insane. Or maybe this was what it had been all along. 12. I hailed a cab. The driver was a middle-aged guy wearing a baseball cap pulled down low, hiding his face. Where to? He rasped, his voice like sandpaper. Evergreen Terrace, I said, giving my home address, though I wasn't sure it was safe anymore. The car started, the AC blasting an unnatural, bone-deep chill. I huddled in the back, instinctively trying to listen to the driver's thoughts. There was only silence. No sots. That meant one of two things. Either he was already dead, or he was so powerful he could block me out. I glanced nervously at the rearview mirror. In it, I saw only a baseball cap floating in midair. There was nothing underneath it. I sucked in a breath, my hand gripping the door handle. Just then, the car radio crackled to life. We interrupt this program for a breaking news bulletin. Authorities are reporting multiple missing persons cases across the city tonight. Residents are advised to stay indoors. BZZ, especially recent high school graduates. BZZ, they are offerings for our Lord. The announcer's voice twisted and warped, finally dissolving into a high-pitched, alien cackle. The driver spoke, his tone as casual as if he were discussing the weather. Just graduated, kid. I swallowed. Igriega. Good. Young, tender meat. My blood ran cold. Then, finally, his thoughts came through, faint but clear. After this fair, I'll take the kids' legs to replace my old ones. The last pair didn't fit right, made my walk all lopsided. I looked out the window. The scenery was a blur. This wasn't the way home. This was the road to the city crematorium. Driver, I just remembered I have to be somewhere else. Can you pull over at the next corner? I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Can't. Brakes are out. The driver didn't turn his head, but the floating baseball cap swiveled a full 180 degrees to face me. Haha, you think you can get off my ghost ride? The only way out is in an urn. I took a deep breath and pulled something out of my backpack. It was one of the dumbbells Kevin the jock had left in his desk. It was actually a charm carved from a dead man's femur. Kevin had been desperate to get it back, but I'd secretly kept it. Low-tier enchanted item detected. Bone of impact. Minor repelling effect on spiritual entities. Hey, mister, I said, holding it up. Catch. I swung the bone with all my might and smashed it into the driver's. Empty space. Thwack. The sound was wet and solid, like hitting a side of beef. Arg. A shriek of pain filled the cab. The car swerved violently, crashing into the guardrail. The impact sprung the door open, and I tumbled out onto the asphalt. Behind me, the car exploded in a fireball. But through the roar of the flames, I heard the driver's enraged thoughts. My legs. My perfect prosthetics. You little brat, don't let me catch you. 13. I limped my way back to my apartment building. I pushed open the door to find my parents sitting on the sofa, watching a TV screen filled with static. "Son, you're back. Are you hungry? I made you a late-night snack." My mom stood up, smiling, holding a bowl filled with a thick, crimson liquid. It smelled delicious, almost intoxicatingly so. I stared at the soup, and the last thread of hope inside me snapped. "Eat up, eat up. We raised you for 18 years, and now you're finally ripe. Once you drink this soul-swap soup, I can take over this young body and live another lifetime." My mother's thoughts were dripping with greed. I looked at my dad. He was sharpening a large butcher knife. Shing, shing, shing. The sound was deafening in the quiet living room. "Hurry it up, woman. The skin has to be peeled while it's still warm to keep it intact. I'm going to make a lantern out of it to hang by the door. Good for warding off evil spirits." I stood in the doorway, my limbs frozen. So, even here, I was just livestock waiting for the slaughter. All that parental love was just a farmer tending to his prize pig. "I'm not hungry." I started backing away slowly, my hand reaching for the doorknob behind me. "You'll eat what you're given. Be a good boy." My mom's face hardened. She glided towards me, holding the bowl. Her feet weren't touching the floor. She was about to lunge when I yanked the door open and sprinted out. "Get back here." A demonic roar echoed behind me. I frantically jabbed the elevator button, but the indicator was stuck on the 18th floor, the floor number for hell. I threw open the door to the stairwell and started down. The motion sensor lights flickered erratically, and dark red liquid oozed from the walls. On every floor, a neighbor poked their head out. Old Mr. Henderson from the 3rd floor, holding his own severed head in his hands, smiled at me. "Hey there, Liam. Where you running off to? Come play a game of chess. I need a new board, and your back looks just about right." Mrs. Gable from the 5th floor, her tongue stretching down like a chameleon's, tried to wrap it around my ankle. "This one's got firm flesh. They'll be delicious steamed." The entire building was haunted. I burst out the ground floor entrance, my lungs on fire. In the community garden, the old ladies who usually did morning Tai Chi were now dancing around a bonfire, chanting in some forgotten language. And what they were burning wasn't wood. I didn't dare look closer. I covered my mouth and ran out of the complex. 14. The streets were empty. The only thing with me was my long, distorted shadow cast by the streetlights. But I knew I wasn't alone. Countless eyes were watching me from the darkness. "Is that the one? The pure soul? He smells delicious. Slurp. He's mine. Don't touch him." The whispers flooded my mind, a rising tide threatening to drown me. I ran without direction, with nowhere to go. The school was a nest of monsters. My home was a slaughterhouse. In this whole wide world, was there no place for me? Suddenly, a black Maybach screeched to a halt in front of me. The window rolled down, revealing the arrogant face of Kyle, the rich kid. "Get in." I stared at him, wary. Kyle clicked his tongue impatiently. "Get in unless you want to be torn apart by that horde of ghouls behind you. I may want to use you for my elixir, but at least I'll leave you in one piece. They won't even leave the bones." His thoughts, however, were more direct. "Damn it, if that rabble gets to him first, my elixir of life is ruined. I have to get in the car and back to the villa where I can prepare him properly." A devil I knew versus a horde I didn't. I gritted my teeth, pulled open the door, and got in. At least with Kyle, I knew what I was dealing with. That was better than facing the unknown horrors chasing me. The car shot forward like an arrow. Kyle kept one hand on the wheel and offered me a bottle of water with the other. "Here, drink this. Calm your nerves. It's laced with a paralytic. One sip, and he's mine to command." I took the bottle, pretended to twist the cap, and discreetly poured the water into my sleeve. "Thanks, Kyle. Don't mention it. We're classmates, right?" he said with a phony smile. The car headed west, toward the secluded villas on the outskirts of the city. It was the perfect place to make someone disappear. "So, where are we going?" I asked, playing dumb. "Just my place. I've got this awesome basement. I mean, game room. You'll love it. My alchemy lab. Haha. The crucible is already preheating." I tightened my grip on the ballpoint pen in my pocket. It wasn't a normal pen. I'd bought it from a street vendor before exams. The blind old man who sold it to me claimed it could rewrite your fate. I thought he was a con artist, until I aced the test by randomly filling in bubbles with it. I knew then that there was something strange about this pen. Maybe, just maybe it was my only way out. 15. The car pulled into the courtyard of a lavish villa. An iron gate slid shut behind us, sealing us off from the world. Kyle parked the car, turned to me, and the friendly mask dropped completely. His face was a canvas of pure malice. "Get out, my little ingredient." I smiled back, my own grin even wider and more unsettling than his. "Actually, Kyle, I got a gift for you, too." Kyle froze. As he lost his mind, I took out the ballpoint pen and scribbled a single word in the air in front of me. Boom. The tip of the pen left a shimmering golden trace in the air. The next second, the hood of Kyle's multi-million-dollar Maybach exploded. Humph! The shockwave sent an unprepared Kyle flying backward onto the manicured lawn. I used the opportunity to jump out of the car and sprint towards the woods behind the villa. "Son of a... My car! Get him! Get him!" Kyle shrieked, scrambling to his feet. A dozen men in black suits poured out of the villa. Their thoughts were a single, unified command: the boss is furious. Capture the target, dead or alive. These weren't bodyguards. They were zombies. Their movements were stiff but unnaturally fast, and they carried the putrid stench of decay. I ran as hard as I could, but exhaustion was catching up to me. I could feel the cold, dead fingers of a zombie about to grab the collar of my shirt. Suddenly, a white silk ribbon shot out from the trees, wrapped around the zombie's neck, and with a sharp tug, sent its head flying off like a champagne cork. A cold, clear voice drifted through the air. "Kyle, this one is mine. You're trespassing." I looked up to see a figure standing on High Branch. It was Chloe, dressed in the elaborate red gown of a bride. Her face was deathly pale, her lips as red as blood. She was breathtakingly beautiful and terrifyingly inhuman. Kyle, now covered in dirt and grass stains, got to his feet. "Chloe, you damn ghost. How dare you interfere with my plans?" Chloe sneered and floated down to the ground, landing a few feet from me. "He is my chosen husband. We are to be wed tonight. If you touch a single hair on his head, I will ensure your family line ends with you." Humph. This idiot has to be joined with me in a union of life and unlife to fully awaken the legacy blood within him. Once I've drained his essence, I can reconstruct my physical body. Then who needs that dead groom of mine? I was just a tool to her, too. Enraged, Kyle pulled a black, tattered flag from his coat. "You had your chance. Banner of 1,000 souls. Claim this ghost for me." With a flick of his wrist, a torrent of shrieking souls erupted from the banner and swarmed toward Chloe. She was unfazed. With a wave of her long sleeves, the red silk of her dress expanded into a swirling storm of ribbons that clashed with the ghostly horde. The scene was pure chaos, a Hollywood special effects showdown come to life. I was stuck in the middle, dodging spectral claws and silk lashes, feeling like an ant caught between two fighting dinosaurs. Just then, a red pop-up box filled my vision. "High-energy signatures detected. High-energy signatures detected. Hidden quest triggered. The snipe hunt. Objective: obtain Kyle's banner of 1,000 souls and Chloe's ghost slipper. Reward: unlock level 1 combat permissions." I stared at the text. Combat permission? Was this useless system finally giving me an upgrade? I looked at the two monsters locked in battle and made my decision. Screw it. I was dead either way. Might as well go out with a bang. 16. Kyle was completely focused on controlling the banner, viewing me as nothing more than a helpless bystander. That was his mistake. I took a deep breath, my knuckles white around my fate rewriting pen. I had no idea how many uses it had left, but it was my only bet. I crouched low, using the overgrown bushes as cover, and crept toward Kyle. Chloe seemed to notice me. She was too tied up with the souls to intervene, but her thoughts screamed at me. "You fool. Run. Don't get yourself killed." I ignored her. 10 feet from Kyle, he was pouring all his energy into the flag, his back completely exposed. "Now!" I burst from the bushes, my pen aimed like a dagger at the small of his back. I wrote one word in the air. "Freeze!" A flash of gold, and Kyle's body locked in place, his arms still raised in the spell-casting position. What's happening? Why can't I move? What did that kid do to me? Panic flooded Kyle's mind. I snatched the banner of 1,000 souls from his paralyzed grip. It was freezing cold and heavy as lead. "Arg, give me back my treasure." Kyle roared, his body still immobile. With their master no longer in control, the souls in the banner turned on him. They shrieked and clawed, swarming over Kyle, tearing at his flesh. "Help me! Somebody help!" His screams were quickly muffled as he disappeared under a writhing mass of spirits. Chloe, seeing her chance, retracted her silk ribbons. She floated over to me, her expression a mixture of shock and suspicion. "I never knew you had that in you. This idiot has powers? Has he been playing weak this whole time? No, I have to get him out of here before something else happens." She reached out to grab my wrist. "Come, my husband. It's time for our wedding." I took a step back, raising the banner between us. "Don't move." Chloe's face fell. "You would use that against me?" "Take off your shoe," I said coldly. She stared at me. "What?" I said. "Take off your embroidered slipper and get it to me." Chloe looked at me as if I were the biggest pervert in the world. Does this fool have some kind of weird fetish for ghost shoes? Despite her thoughts, the threat of the banner was real. She reluctantly slipped off one of her delicate red slippers and handed it to me. The moment I took it, the system chimed. "Quest complete. Level 1 combat permissions unlocked. Skill gained. Soul Shriek, Novice. Items gained. Banner of 1,000 souls damaged. Ghost Slipper single." A warm current flooded my body. I felt stronger, my senses sharper. Chloe stood on one foot, looking at me pitifully. "My husband, can we go now?" I looked at her and broke into a grin. "Sorry, but I'm not really into ghost brides." Then I used my new skill. "Get out." The word erupted from my lungs, a visible ripple of force expanding outward. Chloe screamed, her spiritual form flickering and turning translucent, as if she might dissipate at any moment. Such powerful soul energy. How is this possible? He's supposed to be immortal. She shot me one last look of pure terror, then dissolved into a wisp of black smoke and fled. I collapsed onto the grass, panting heavily. I'd won. I had actually survived an encounter with 2 monsters and came out on top. But before I could even start to celebrate, a slow, deliberate clapping sound came from the edge of the woods. Clap, clap, clap. Brilliant, truly brilliant. A familiar voice. My head snapped up. Mr. Davison was walking slowly out of the darkness, his hands clasped behind his back. He wore his usual stern expression, the light glinting off his glasses. To think, the student I looked down on the most was the one with the deepest secrets. He stopped in front of me, looking down at my pathetic form. This time, his thoughts came through with perfect, horrifying clarity. The boy's soul strength has finally reached the awakening threshold. It seems the item can now be implanted. The item? What item? A primal sense of danger screamed at me to run, but my body felt like it was encased in lead. I couldn't move a muscle. Mr. Davison crouched down and pulled a small black box from his pocket. He opened it. Inside, nestled on a bed of velvet, was a still beating eyeball. It was pure black, with no sclera or iris, and it radiated an aura of palpable, nauseating evil. "Liam, do you know why your entire class is full of monsters, yet you alone are human?" Mr. Davison picked up the eyeball and brought it slowly toward my forehead. "It's because you are a vessel. You were cultivated from birth to be the perfect container to seal this. The eye of the outer god. Once the eye is implanted, the unnameable one will descend, and this entire world will become my nourishment." Mr. Davison's mind was a vortex of madness and ecstatic fanaticism. I struggled, tried to scream, but no sound came out. The cold, gelatinous surface of the eyeball was about to touch my skin. "I refuse. I won't die. I will not be a vessel for anyone." At that last moment of defiance, the banner of 1,000 souls in my hand began to vibrate violently. The thousands of souls trapped within it seemed to sense my rage and unleashed a collective, deafening shriek. Aoag! With a final, desperate roar, I broke through Mr. Davison's mental hold just enough to move my arm, and I plunged the sharp hole of the banner deep into my own thigh. The searing pain cleared my head instantly. Mr. Davison, shocked by my act of self-mutilation, hesitated for a fraction of a second. It was all I needed. I grabbed the bone of impact from the ground and swung it with all my remaining strength at Mr. Davison's wrist. Crack! The box went flying. The eye of the outer god tumbled out, bounced twice on the grass like a morbid super ball, and then, plunk! It rolled directly into a nearby storm drain. No! Mr. Davison let out a soul-tearing scream, a sound of agony far worse than death. My God! My divine eye! He scrambled to the drain, clawing at the iron grate like a madman. I was stunned. It just fell down a hole? That was the most anticlimactic eldritch horror I could imagine. While Mr. Davison was having his breakdown, I dragged my bleeding leg and scrambled away from that cursed villa, disappearing back into the night. But I knew this wasn't the end. The eye wasn't gone. It was just lost. And as the designated vessel, and the only one who knew what happened, I was about to become the most hunted person on the planet. 17. I don't know how long I ran. The sky was beginning to turn a bruised purple when I stumbled into a 24-hour convenience store. The clerk, a young guy, was dozing behind the counter. I listened to his thoughts. So tired. Need sleep. Hate this job. Normal. He was human. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding and collapsed in a corner aisle. The wound in my thigh was still bleeding. I tore a strip from my shirt and tied it off. The system pinged again. Main quest updated. Find the lost eye of the outer god. Time limit, 72 hours. Failure penalty, total annihilation of all life. I looked out the window at the waking city and let out a bitter, humorless laugh. Total annihilation? You have got to be kidding me. Just then, the store's glass door slid open. A girl in a school uniform walked in. It was Sarah, the quiet girl. She was clutching a tattered old doll, her eyes vacant. When she saw me, she didn't look surprised. Instead, she gave me that same sickeningly sweet smile. Liam, I knew I'd find you here. Found him. Since I can't use him as raw material anymore, I'll turn him into a living bomb. It'll be perfect for blasting open the sewer entrance. She walked toward me, step by step. The doll in her arms suddenly opened its eyes, revealing a mouth full of needle-sharp teeth. I gripped my ballpoint pen, my back pressed against a shelf of junk food. There was nowhere left to run. Sarah, stay back. Don't worry, she cooed. This won't hurt a bit. She raised a small sewing kit. Just as I was about to make my last stand, the TV mounted in the corner of the store flickered on. A morning news anchor was reporting. We have breaking news from downtown, where the city sewer system is experiencing a catastrophic failure. A large volume of an unidentified black substance is flooding the streets. Experts believe it may be a new form of industrial pollutant. The screen showed a live feed from a helicopter. It was the same street, the same storm drain, and pouring from it was a torrent of black, viscous sludge. And in the middle of that sludge, a colossal, pure black I was slowly, deliberately opening. Sarah stopped dead in her tracks. She stared at the screen, her face turning chalk white. It's waking up? Without a vessel. It's over. We're all going to be consumed. She turned and ran, not even sparing me a second glance. I stared at the TV screen, an unprecedented cold seeping into my bones. Through the screen, across the entire city, I could feel it. That giant, monstrous I was staring directly at me. A voice, grand and cold, echoed, not in my ears, but in the very core of my soul. Have found you. That voice slammed into my mind like a freight train. My vision went black, and blood gushed from my nose. I collapsed, clutching my head, feeling like my brain was being ripped in two. It wasn't just the voice. A flood of chaotic, insane images was being forcibly shoved into my memory. I saw a blood-red sky, a million prostrated worshippers, and standing at the top of a grand altar, holding a sacrificial dagger, was me. No, it wasn't me. The figure wore ancient ceremonial robes, his expression as cold and indifferent as a god staring at insects. But he had my face. What is this? What's happening? I gasped, curled up on the linoleum floor. The convenience store clerk had woken up and was staring at me in terror. Hey, man, are you okay? Should I call 911? His thoughts were less charitable. Is this guy on drugs? Having a seizure? Oh God, please don't let him sue me. I couldn't pay him any mind. The grand voice boomed again. The betrayer must return. As the last word echoed, the glass door of the convenience store exploded inward. Crash! A flood of black, writhing tentacles poured through the doorway, a living tide of darkness that instantly consumed the small store. The clerk didn't even have time to scream before a tentacle wrapped around him and dragged him into the abyss, leaving behind a single, sad-looking sneaker. I scrambled backward in terror, but my back hit the wall. A thick tentacle, its tip a gaping maw filled with teeth, shot toward me. I raised the bone of impact to defend myself, but the artifact that had derailed a ghost car was like a toothpick against this new threat. The tentacle shattered it into dust without slowing. Bam! I was slammed against the wall so hard I felt my organs shift. The tentacle coiled around my waist, hoisting me into the air. My vision started to fade from the lack of oxygen. This is it. This is how I die. Dying in a stupid convenience store, in a world full of monsters. No, I wasn't ready. I still didn't know who that man on the altar was. I still didn't know what this vessel really meant. Let me go, I roared, clawing at the slimy flesh of the tentacle, my fingernails digging deep. At that moment, the ballpoint pen in my pocket grew intensely hot, like a branding iron against my skin. A beam of pure golden light shot from the pen's tip, piercing the tentacle. Scree! The tentacle shrieked in agony and convulsed, dropping me to the floor. I landed in a heap, gasping for air. The pen floated in the air above me. Its plastic casing cracked and fell away as the golden light intensified, forming the hazy silhouette of a man. He was an old man in simple robes, holding a scroll, his eyes ancient and deep. He looked down at me and sighed. Foolish child, the memories I sealed away for 18 years have finally been broken. I didn't recognize him, but I could hear his thoughts filled not with malice, but with a deep, weary guilt. I couldn't bring myself to destroy you all those years ago. I stripped away your divinity and let you live as a mortal. But I should have known these abominations would never leave you be. If it has come to this, then you must fight. Divinity? What divinity? The old man flicked his finger. The pen dissolved into a beam of light and shot directly into my forehead. Boom! A nuclear bomb went off in my mind. Countless memory fragments, once shattered, slammed back together. And I saw it all. I saw the man on the altar. It was me, but I wasn't the priest. I was the thing they were sacrificing to. I was the unnameable one itself. The so-called outer god was nothing more than the malice and power I had shed, a cancerous tumor I had cut from myself. And this mortal body, this human life, was the cage I had built to contain it. Mr. Davison was wrong. My classmates were wrong. I wasn't a vessel. I was a lock. I was the key. And I was the original master. A low chuckle escaped my lips, my head still bowed. It grew louder, deeper, until it became a full-throated, maniacal laugh. Ah ha ha ha! I lifted my head, the fear in my eyes replaced by a flat, emotionless gold. The tentacles, which had been so aggressive just moments ago, now recoiled in terror. They trembled, trying to retreat. Running away, I asked, my voice a low hum of power. I held up my hand and made a casual fist. You were enjoying your meal so much just now. My turn. I unleashed the power that was truly mine. Devour. Every black tentacle in the store, every shadow, every drop of the encroaching darkness was sucked toward my hand in an unstoppable vortex. They shrieked and writhed, but it was useless. In seconds, every trace of the entity was gone, consumed and absorbed into my palm. I let out a small burp, feeling a sliver of my long-lost power return. A bit greasy. 1 star. I dusted off my hands, stood up, and walked out of the ruined store. The world outside was transformed. The sky was a bleeding crimson. The streets were crawling with monsters. And hanging over the city like a black sun was the giant eye of the outer god, radiating despair. Below it I saw them. Mr. Davison, Sarah, Kevin, Chloe, even the tattered soul of Kyle. My classmates. They were all kneeling, worshipping the eye, begging it for power. Idiots, I sneered. If you love playing monster games so much, then I'll play with you. Only this time, the roles of hunter and prey have been reversed. I picked up a broken length of steel rebar from the street, testing its weight in my hand. The system's voice chimed in my head, but now it was meek, fawning, terrified. And most esteemed host, detecting your divine awakening. System upgrading to overlord mode. Current mission, house cleaning. Objective, teach these little monsters who their daddy is. A cruel smirk spread across my face. I couldn't agree more. I began walking toward the center of the city, dragging the steel pipe behind me. It scraped against the asphalt, kicking up a shower of angry sparks. The first period bell just rang. I said softly to the chaos before me, "Class is in session, everyone."